I feel like once you've really sunk your teeth into Andrew Yang, it's almost like it's weird to use this analogy or this comparison, but it's almost like being red pilled, if you know what that is. Uh, all right, let me talk about red pilling for a moment. Um, I guess the crux of it is depending on who you talk to, but it's a reference from the Matrix. You know, do you take the blue pill and things stay the way that you're used to seeing them, or take the red pill to see the truth of what reality is? That's the reference from the Matrix. And the idea of the red pill has been used, I guess, in the Manosphere, where basically it's talking about, well, for lack of a better word, female nature. But I think it's also important to understand male nature and female nature, human nature, because there are male, female of other species, of course. But anyway, but the whole thing is like that I sort of, I guess I can say I appreciate about the whole concept of the red pill is more like the idea of like you're just taking a little bit more of an omniscient perspective on things. It's like, okay, these are the patterns that we notice. Like when you're in the mix of it, in the thick of it, you don't notice really the pattern. But when you step outside, it's like, look, these are the patterns. So are you sure you want to make this choice? Because these are the patterns that you see. And very much why I got off of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, because I started seeing the patterns of behavior from my friends. I was like, oh, look at these patterns. I don't want myself going down that road. So I broke out of the matrix. You know what I mean? I'm still in the YouTube matrix though. I have not gotten red pilled with YouTube. But I mean, also I don't divulge who I am, and I'm not trying to make friends out here. You know, I'm just spouting out my stuff just cause. But anyway, so Andrew Yang, I feel like there's sort of this idea, not idea, but just the concept of the red pill in my head resonates when I really got a chance to get into Andrew Yang's policies. Like after you hear, so here's the thing about the red pill. Once you take that omniscient perspective of like whatever it is, female nature or whatever the idea, like it's really hard to go back and be in the blue pill world where you're just like, okay, well, I just accept that, you know, regular life should be like getting married and having a kid, and having kids and a 9-to-5 job and own a house and a car, you know, like once you've taken that red pill and you start seeing like, hey, this is all a scheme, a setup. I don't like this. I'm out, you know, like I almost get this sense from Andrew Yang when I watch him and sink my teeth into his stuff. It's like after watching that, whenever I watch other politicians, I was like, yeah. But tell me your policy, Pete Buttigieg. Tell me what it is what specifically you're gonna do, because I can tell you what specifically Yang plans on doing. You know. It's great you stand for this, it's great you stand for that, it's great you stand for the other, but what are you going to do? You say you're going to fight. All right, fight for what? What specific, what proposal, what policy are you going to fight for? Tell me the specifics of the policy, and if you ain't sharing that, you're just talking. You're just talking. And so it's like, after watching so much Andrew Yang, when I watch these other politicians, it's really hard to watch. It's really hard to take them seriously. And the few that do have actual policy proposals, say like Bernie Sanders on, you know, increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour and having a living wage. Well, you hear Andrew Yang's rebuttal to that, and it's like, man, Andrew Yang makes more sense on this, you know? Or if you hear like Elizabeth Warren's plan on wanting to break up the big tech companies, and then you hear Andrew Yang's response to that, you're like, The dude makes a lot of sense. In case you don't know, and you're kind of new to Andrew Yang, which I highly doubt. If you're watching this, I highly doubt it. But I'll mention it anyway. Yang supports the idea, well, going back to Bernie's thing of the minimum wage thing being up to $15, what Yang says he supports is that someone who's working full-time should not be living in poverty. He agrees with that. And I think that's a central premise that both camps can agree on. But he doesn't agree on raising the minimum wage to $15. He more promotes his freedom dividend or universal basic income. Because he's like, the moment you start hiking up the minimum wage, making businesses hike up the minimum wage, you know, one of the things that I love that Andrew Yang says is that people think like just because you have a business that you have this endless supply of money that you can just automatically, you know, afford to pay all these things. No, then what's going to happen is businesses will hire fewer employees and they will go that much faster towards automation. Like, how can you not connect those dots? Especially after you hear Andrew Yang say it and break it down in such easy to understand and specific details. Like, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And especially on Elizabeth Warren's point of trying to break up these big tech companies like Amazon and Google and all that. I mean, his response is there a problem with companies like, you know, with like social media companies and all that, like causing societal problems? Yes, there are issues, but there's a different way to deal with that. Breaking it up isn't the answer. Like, if you, okay, let's say you break up Google, like no one's going to use the fourth best search engine or the fourth best navigational app. That's not the solution to trying to solve the societal problems that big tech companies are causing. You know, no one's going to use like the whatever, like breaking up Facebook. That's not gonna instantly just cure people of depression and anxiety. It's not gonna do it. so you know, and of course, what his solution is, if he gets into offices, he will have like a department of the attention economy and have a social media czar, and they will you know, they have this litany of policies that they will put into place in terms of usage of social media and such, particularly, you know, around children and things like that. So, anyways, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but just in case you don't know what Andrew Yang is about, like I didn't want to give just attention to Bernie's perspectives and Warren's perspectives without giving Andrew Yang's perspective, which I think is far superior because he outlines why their perspectives are problematic and, quite frankly, outdated. So again, like when you, after hearing Andrew Yang lay things out, you're just like sort of red-pilled now, because when you start listening to anybody else, you're just like, give me some substance, give me some meat. Your intent is great. I love your intent. You've got a good heart. But brass tacks, what do you mean? Like, what specifically are you going to change? You know, one of the other things I wanted to mention before I sign off here, like, I really like how Andrew's very even-keeled, and he's just very data-oriented. Like, he doesn't really come off as this, like, uber passionate, liberal, progressive type of person who is, you know, that bleeding heart. No, this guy's a freaking millionaire and is a capitalist, and he's started like very success and has run very successful businesses. Like, this guy is numbers. He's all about the numbers. And so when you hear him say that, yeah, Medicare for all makes a lot of sense, especially in, you know, when it comes to what a developed country should have for its citizens. Like, he's not like crying victim or anything of that nature, Like when he says like, yeah, it makes sense. The data supports it. So if you think in another direction, like there's a real moral issue here. Let's figure out where that's coming from. I mean, I don't know. There's just sort of this level-headedness and this data-backed sort of, I don't want to say stoic, but he's just very calm and rational and level-headed about the similar ideas that you hear on the progressive side, but he's just not being a whiny bag about it. He's like saying, look, this is the data, and this is what makes the most sense. If we want things to improve, like, this is what we do. It's like, I don't know, that kind of level-headedness, I hope, carries more credibility and weight versus someone screaming and crying and yelling passionately. I mean, sure, that makes for good media and theater, but ultimately, like, I don't know, maybe Yang carries more credibility with his approach. So, I don't know. Anyways, I just thought I'd talk about that a little bit, the being red-pilled by Yang. Like, once you sink your teeth in it, after that, everything else is just like, man, all right, that's fine, but Andrew's got a better plan, and he'll lay it out for you. So, let's see what happens at these debates. That's going to be interesting.